Hey everybody, my name is SPAZ and I'm a CD junkie. On this episode of CD Junkie, I'm going to be talking about everybody's favorite Liverpudlian quartet. That's right, I am going to be talking about the 80s version of the Fab Four. That's right, a Flock of Seagulls. Now, I genuinely love a Flock of Seagulls, and I know a lot of people are always going on about the ridiculous hairstyle, but you know what? It was a gimmick. And it made you listen to the music, right? Because that's what was important, the music. And I can assure you, as I go through these CDs, they made some tremendous music. And hopefully this will motivate you to look at the band in a different light. Now, I always like to start these shows off and tell you how I got into the band. And that was kind of just by accident. This is actually before the hairstyle. This was when they came out with a few singles, and there was an American EP that had a few tracks like Telecommunications, and I think maybe Modern Love is Automatic. But because it looked interesting, I picked it up and I fell in love with it. So by the time the debut album came out in 1982, that's it right there. This is actually the UK pressing of the album. This came out in 1982. It's self-titled, and this Cherry Red version has bonus tracks, as you can see there, which are B-sides and stuff. And this is the actual British track listing. So there's a song called Tokyo that never made the American album. Some people call them a synth pop band. They are far from a synth pop band. You got Mike Score on vocals, keyboards, and guitar. You've got Paul Reynolds on guitar. You've got Mike's brother Ali Score on drums, and you've got Frank Maudsley on bass. They made a unique sound. It really had to do with chemistry. You know, you've got like a producer like Mike Howlett, and Bill Nelson produced actually their first single. The four of these guys, they just had a chemistry and it worked. I guess in a sense you can call them new wave, but certainly not synth pop, because Paul Reynolds' guitar was a huge part of their sound. The echo delay. This is the album, of course, that has Iran and my favorite Flock of Seagulls song, Space Age Love Song, Telecommunication, Modern Love is Automatic, Messages, DNA. There was an instrumental on this album called DNA that won them a Grammy Award for Best Instrumental Rock Performance. So a lot of people don't know that, but it's amazing. Now, I also have an American version of the CD that's autographed during their 2004 reunion tour. It's actually got Frank's autograph, Paul's autograph, and Ali's autograph. The weird thing about it is Mike, who lives here in the U.S. and who tours a lot, he didn't come out to sign the autographs. So I eventually have to go see the band just to get this autograph. So in 1983, they followed that up with an album called Listen. Here is the cherry pop version with bonus tracks. This was a darker album. It was actually, even though live they would maybe use a little bit more guitar, the album sounded a little bit more electronic, but they were still avoiding the whole synth pop tag. It's not as poppy and upbeat as the first album, but melodically it's just as good. It's absolutely fantastic. This is the album that has Wishing, If I Had a Photograph of You. It's also got Nightmares, Transfer Affection, one of my favorite songs. Another one of my favorite songs is What Am I Supposed to Do, with some great bass work. It's got Electrics and The Traveler, and It's Not Me Talking, and of course then there's some bonus tracks there. One of their greatest B-sides is the song Committed. It used to get played on KROQ in Los Angeles. In fact, probably more than any other song on the album, but it's absolutely fantastic. There was a version of this album that had come out on Superfecta Records a few years before this, and I was asked to provide the liner notes. So on this original version that came out on Superfecta Records, which did contain a few bonus tracks, I wrote the liner notes for that one. So it was one of my very first liner notes gigs, and I was very, very, very happy. So thank you to Jason over at Superfecta for allowing me to do that. 1984, they released Story of a Young Heart, and this was actually a concept album. Which is strange, 3 albums in and you're putting together a concept album, but it's a very emotional album. Musically, it's sort of a mixture between their self-titled debut album and then the Listen album. It's more serious in nature, but the songs are absolutely fantastic. The singles that came off of this were The More You Live, The More You Love, Never Again the Dancer's great. Heart of Steel, Over My Head, Remember David. Lots of great songs. This is the cherry pop version, and it has bonus tracks, as you can tell. This album did not do as well commercially as the first two, which is really a shame because it's really, really worth your while if you love the first two albums. And if you didn't really pay attention to this, I think you should go back and listen to it because it's absolutely a fantastic record. And the whole idea of a concept album, it really worked because at the very end, there's a song called Suicide Day. And as the song ends, faintly in the background, you hear the chorus of the first song. So it's sort of a cycle. So it just inspires you to go back and restart and listen to the album again. So it's really, really cool. But this was the last album with Paul Reynolds, the guitar player. He left, and that totally changed the whole dynamic with the band. I believe they moved to America temporarily and settled in and started recording their fourth album, which is called Dream Come True. This came out in 1986. Now, there is a cherry red version of this with bonus tracks. I don't have it. The version I have is the Alma Cantar label version, but it is the complete album. Now, this was just a radical change. Musically, it did not sound like a Flock of Seagulls. They were doing different things. Vocally, you can tell it was them, but they had female backing vocalists, dancier rhythms. They were trying new kind of electronic programming. And I don't want to say it's an industrial album, but it's closer to an industrial album than the other stuff that they did because the rhythms were harder. Maybe you could say it's industrial funk or something. It wasn't a complete success. I will not listen to the songs Hot Tonight or Love on Your Knees. I will not, period. But the rest of it I love, like Heartbeat Like a Drum, Who's That Girl, Better and Better, Cry Like a Baby, How Could You Ever Leave Me, A Whole Lot of Loving. I really like those songs, but I just kind of wish that Paul Reynolds had stayed around and they sort of still continued in their older style. I really enjoy when a band changes, when a band evolves, but this seemed like an evolution that was only caused because a part of their chemistry was taken away. But Dream Come True, and that was the last album on a major label by A Flock of Seagulls. They actually broke up after this, but Mike, after a few years, started touring again with A Flock of Seagulls, but it was just him and a bunch of new guys. But eventually, in 1995, 9 years after Dream Come True, out comes The Light at the End of the World. And song-wise, this is a really cool album. Mike and the guys are sort of revisiting the song structures of old, and they're creating new Flock of Seagulls songs, maybe using the same types of sounds that they had used on the first couple albums. But there are some great songs on here, like Magic and Setting Sun, Rainfall, Hearts on Fire, Walking in the Garden. Lots of really good songs on this. If you're a Flock of Seagulls fan and you prefer the earlier sound, like the first 2 or 3 albums, this is definitely going to be up your alley. Flock of Seagulls toured and toured and toured, and they continue to tour, and they've played 1 or 2 new songs in their set, but those new songs I don't believe have ever come out in any format. But Mike Score did put out a solo album in 2014 called Zibrata, but it was only digital, so I don't have a CD to show you. You know, even though the original 4 guys did get together and do a mini tour back in 2004, they never recorded anything. But come 2018, out comes Ascension. It's a collection of re-recorded hits by all 4 members with the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra. So you're going to hear some fantastic versions of, you know, hits like I Ran and Modern Love is Automatic and Space Age Love Song and all those songs there. And that is called Ascension. Now, the following year, out comes an album with a cover that I'm not especially fond of, but this is called In Flight, The Extended Essentials. And what this is the recordings that were on this, minus the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra, but they've all been extended, remixed, and it's really a nice collection. So again, this is the reunited 4 members re-recording older hits with an orchestra and remixed. And there's like deluxe editions box sets, like I think like an 8 CD version of this or something like that. And I'd love to be able to afford them, but unfortunately I just have to settle for the single disc. But very, very worthwhile. And finally, the last CD is yet another cherry pop CD. It's a 2 CD set called Remixes and Rarities. It obviously has the remixes. It has a bunch of 7-inch edits, B-sides, live. Basically, it grabs a lot of the rare stuff. In fact, that video version of I Ran, that shorter version that you're so used to because you saw the video all the time on MTV, that is on this. But you're going to get a bunch of stuff here. You're not going to get the 10-minute version of Wishing, I don't believe. And that's it for this episode about A Flock of Seagulls. I truly love them. I think that if you just close your eyes and forget the hairstyle and listen to the music, it is just fantastic. It's engrossing, it's riveting, it's emotional, it's fun, it's melodic, and you really need to give them another chance if you just thought of them as just a silly little 80s band. So okay, that's finally it. I appreciate you hanging out and listening to me babble about A Flock of Seagulls. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. That helps me. If you like this video, if you subscribe to my channel, if you share this with friends, it's only going to help me so I can continue making these videos. Thank you all. Until the next time, my name is SPAZ, and I'm a CD junkie.